followed with that, we started screening as per the guidelines given to us by Government of India. We started screening the foreign bound passengers landing in Mumbai under Vande Bharat scheme. And the mandate given to us was to screen the patient, to isolate them whosoever is suspected, and put them in quarantine facility created near the airport or in the some of the hotels. Subsequently, we also constituted one task force which comprises the learned and the specialized doctors and the professionals working in this field. We come across the first case on 10th of March. A patient traveled from UK, got a positive report, and that really started the ball rolling in the sense we started preparing our infrastructure development, our testing facility, like anything. Initially, we had only one hospital, a Kasturba hospital, which all of you may know, having the only 28 bed capacity, one or two ICUs, one or two ventilators, and only one testing laboratory based in Kasturba. But subsequently, as the patients started growing up, we augmented our facilities. Creation of the facilities for one thing, but we also started working on the development of the human resources. So if you ask me about the facilities, what facilities we have created, initially, as I said, we had only one testing facility. Subsequently, we added our facilities. Now we have almost 25 testing facilities across Mumbai, and numerous swab collection centers across Mumbai. So far the infrastructure is concerned, as I said, from the one hospital, we added the several hospitals, and from the 28 bed capacity, we have now 90,000 bedded capacity available with us. Though only 20,000 are active as of now, 20,000 or 25,000, but I mean the remaining facilities can be activated at any point of time after receiving a 2 days notice, some of the facilities, and 7-day notice, most of the facilities. Infrastructure also, it was not that since we were not, no one was aware, including us, that how the virus would behave. The it was not, the doctors were also not sure what type of medical intervention should we provide to the infected person, except the isolation and providing some good food and good housing arrangement. When we, studied further, then we thought that oxygen supply would be the major intervention so far as the treating these patients are concerned. So augmented our facility, oxygen supply facility. From earlier it was a cylinder based facility, like a cylinder, 100 liter or 200 liter cylinder placed at the various hospitals and those who having the refilling facilities. But looking at the volume of the patient, we augmented, and now we have a turbo oxygen supply system across all the hospitals in Mumbai Municipal Corporation area. You can take a oxygen supply in BKC, which is a makeshift arrangement, a jumbo facility. But even there, we have a 26,000 capacity oxygen supply system that we could develop in a minimum possible time, say 3 weeks or maximum 3.5 weeks. Similarly, the ICU beds, because ICU beds were much in demand, and you might have read in the newspaper that yes, the people are struggling to get into the ICU. So we augmented the ICU facility from 2, now it is 2,000 plus ICU beds are available. Same is the case with the ventilators. Ventilators were in demand. Now the demand has gone down substantially because of the oxygen supply system. Ventilators, hardly very few ventilators were available. Those were placed in the major hospitals of Mumbai Metropolitan, Mumbai Municipal Corporation, medical colleges. And we also augmented the ventilator supply, which are useful for treating patients or the critical patients, from only 2 to 3 to more than 1,100 as of now. Providing infrastructure, yes, you can buy beds, you can buy medicine, you can buy oxygen supply system or ventilators or something like that. But manpower was really a challenging task before us. So we used the multi-pronged strategy for the deployment of manpower. Initially, we use the waiting list, because every recruitment list has got a waiting list. We started calling the waiting list people who are waitlisted as a doctor, or as a paramedic staff, as a nurses. And then we started recruiting them. But merely recruitment won't serve the purpose. That is what we realized. And then, because there was a tremendous fear among the medical or the health workers, that even if I get into the ICU, the isolation ward, I may also get infected. In order to avoid that, we have procured a huge number of PPE, that is personal protective equipment, N95 mask, hand gloves, bulk quantity in bulk, and started providing to each and everyone whosoever is entering, be it a sweeper, or the sanitary worker, or the nurse, or the paramedic staff, or the doctor. Everyone, though it was against the guidelines given to us by ICMR, Indian Council of Medical Research, but we decided that everyone should be equipped with the PPE kit, so that the confidence level would be very high, and they won't reluctant to go to the such facilities. Secondly, the incentives, because we raised our honorarium or the salaries by 1.5 times, so that they should also feel comfortable. We have provided them the 300 rupees per day allowance to commute from their workplace to home, or from home to workplace. Also, it was not possible for each and everyone to commute from, say, distantly placed locations like Mira Bhainder, or Badlapur, or Palghar. So we provided them the housing arrangement free of cost in the very good hotels, 4-star, sometimes 5-star hotels. So lodging, boarding, financial incentive, recruitment, everything was taken care of. Similarly, we also have insured all of them for 50 lakh rupees in medical insurance. So that also gave us a tremendous boost for them to work for the COVID-19 patients, and to treat them properly. Uh, we also have devised a strategy. If someone works for 7 days, he should be given 7 days off, so that the remaining 7 days he can get quarantined himself, and can, in case he get infected, so it would be easier for us to detect him and to isolate him, and and to admit him in a quarantine or the isolation facility. So that also really worked, because 7 days work, 7 days off. Now we have shifted back to the 5 days work, 2 days off. That is also giving very good result. Medicines also, medicine, because as I said, no one was aware what type of medicine should we go for. Someone was betting for the tocilizumab, and then someone were saying that yes, it would work, we should go for the hydroxychloroquine. Some section of the medical fraternity was betting for the remdesivir, plasma therapy. But we decided that let it, whatever be the case, let it be the decision of the doctor. We should provide them the whatever medicine they are asking for, and we procured in bulk. So you may have realized that the private sector, we are struggling for getting tocilizumab or the remdesivir. But for the first time, all the medical colleges or the medical facilities of Mumbai Municipal Corporation were having the abundant stock, either of the oxygen supply, or of the medicines, or of the plasma. So we plug whatever possible gaps are there by speeding up our procurement process, by delegating powers to our field staff, and by providing the motivational support to them. Initially, the bed management was the major concern, because it was a central facility. We have still, it is working. We have 1916 as a helpline number. We converted that facility into the central war room. But somehow, because taking load of the 1,000 patients plus per day, it would be difficult. It was difficult for them to handle. Then we decided that let us this decentralize the facility. Then we decided to set up a ward war room. We set up 24 war rooms across Mumbai, and made the assistant commissioner of that respective ward as an in charge of that facility. The ambulances, the more than 15 ambulances per ward room were provided. The 5 doctors, 2 doctors per shift and 1 doctor in the night shift provided to, educate or consult the patient and to provide the necessary advice. And all this, if necessary, the medical team were kept ready so that the medical team can go to the respective house to check the status of patient and decide where that patient required to be admitted, either in isolation or in ICU or in some other quarantine facility. So all this made life simpler for us. Otherwise, we used to take call 2 a.m. in the night or 3 a.m. in the night that I'm not getting bed, arrange something for us. Otherwise, my patient may die. So, because of the decentralization, the bed management, for bed management, we also use the IT. We created a dashboard. The dashboard is working, and we made all the private and the government hospitals and the MCGM hospitals to update that dashboard on hourly basis, so that whenever the bed gets vacant, it can be the ward war room or the central war room would be able to allocate that bed to a needy patient. Uh, Similarly, the testing also. Testing, initially we had only one laboratory. Subsequently, we opened almost 5 laboratories in all the medical colleges and one of the special hospital. Private sector, we encourage the private sector to step in and to also get license and start operating in the facility. We also, took them on board. Now, the testing, initially it was decided that it was mandated to us by ICMR that testing should be done only of the symptomatic patient or on prescription of the medical practitioner. But we traveled beyond that and we liberalized the testing, because if we get the testing facility easily accessible, it would be easier for a person who is really feeling that, yes, I may be symptomatic or I'm not feeling well, to go to the testing center, offer his swab, and get the testing report within 24 hours. That is what the deadline we set for the private laboratories. So all these processes led us to a situation that, yes, everything is easier. The bed allocation is easier. The testing report is also easily available to the person. The doctor also available. The facilities are there, and all these facilities are available free of cost, 24/7. And we developed a second line command, in the sense, suppose a medical facility is being looked after by a dean. Then we develop the second command and the third command, so that we can interact directly with the second in command, so that the dean and the medical professional can focus more on the treatment and overall management, and the bed allocation and other related issues can be handled by some other person. While doing so, we also have, initially the death rate was very high. That was a cause of concern, cause of worry for all of us. Then we launched a Mission Save Lives program. Being in the isolation, in Indian context, Indian society feels that if someone is not meeting me, so I'm not of, he start losing hope in, of survival. So we started the Mission Save Lives program, and under that program, we have provided the smartphones and now the tabs to all the ward boys and the nurses who are working in the medical, in the particular ICU facility or the isolation facility, to make the patient talk to his relative or his friend, so that both of them, because being in isolation, no one is allowed to enter the hospital or the ICU or the isolation, and no one is there to meet the person or to consult the patient. That also really worked very hard, very good for us. We also roped in the specialist doctor working in the private sector hospitals to have a hand-holding of the treating doctor in isolation facility or ICU facility, to take the list, to discuss about the treatment protocol of the critical patients. That also really worked. So initially our death rate was the CFR, case fatality rate was around 5.8%. Now it is less than 2%, and we are really struggling for bringing it down to 1%, and that is also paying very good. The focus initially was of the on the slums. To share some of the experience working in the slums area, I also traveled in the, toured extensively in the slum area to motivate the people working over there. The slum population, you are aware that in the Dharavi or in Worli or Koliwada area, 10% or more than 10% are living in a very small or shanty or 10 by 10 room. It is difficult for them to maintain the social distancing or to, uh, to maintain the personal hygiene. So we decided that such person, the whoso is coming into contact with the positive patient, should be taken out, should be placed in the quarantine facility. All the high-risk contacts for that we have procured. The 90,000 bed capacity really worked very well for us. In the quarantine facility, we have decided to provide the free food and the medical treatment to all of them twice a day or thrice a day, as per the advice of the medical practitioners. That also really worked well. We sanitize the common toilet because in the slum area, no one has got, very few has got the access to the individual toilets. So sanitation of the common facility and the common water fetching facility, 6 a day or sometimes more than that. So that also really worked. So the number three intervention from our side was to involve the local practitioner, local general practitioners for our fight, because it was not the battle to fight by our own or the single-handedly. So we asked them to join hands with us, and we also have provided PPE kits and N95s free of cost, depending on their capacity, depending on their the manpower employed by them. And we also requested them that whenever they come across any symptomatic patient, they should share the details with us. So entire thing will be taken care of us. So and the mobile house tour survey, which we are doing now also, a house tour survey to take out the symptomatic patients, that also really worked in our favor. And this way we could control the spread of this deadly disease in slum area like Worli or Nehru Nagar or Ganpat Patil Nagar or Dharavi. Subsequently, when we started opening up, the focus shifted to buildings, because the more number of patients who started coming in from the building, either from the high-rises building or from the building having say 10th floor or more. When we analyze the causes, after unlocking, the people started hiring the house help and the drivers, because no one would be comfortable sitting at home and doing the household chores. So they started hiring, but without caring for their personal hygiene or without caring for their medical intervention. This resulted into the spread of virus in the building. So we made it compulsory that every building should have a hand sanitizer machine or the thermal gun to record the temperature of the whosoever is coming in the building. And we also have sealed some of the building in order to avoid the further spread by restricting the movement of the occupant of that building. By this method, we could control most of the spread. We are now talking about the second wave, because most of the developed countries and the developing countries are facing the second wave. Even some part of our nation are also reeling under that pressure and reeling under that situation that yes, the second wave and the cases are going up like anything. But I won't be happy, but I would like to note that the cases in Mumbai are around 1,000 per day, and the death rate is also coming down now. Yesterday we got only 9 days. Today also, I hope that that report, I'm awaiting that report. Today also, the number of cases would be less than 1,000, though our testing is going up. We also have used the IC activities like only three things. Whenever you go out, you should wear mask. Whenever you come into contact with someone, or touching some common touching points like buttons in the elevator or the railing on the staircase, or knob of your door, or handle of your car, or steering. These should be sanitized, or your hand should also be sanitized, so that even if these are infected, these are having some viral load, those would be transmitted, or those would be transmitted to you, and you would be protected. Then again, maintaining social distancing to maintain social distance is really challenging in the city like Mumbai because it is a very densely populated area and 60% population is in slum area and more than 60% to 70% population commute by public transport like local railway or the base buses. Even then, I mean, though we have opened up, I mean, we are operating the locals to the 50% capacity. We have unlocked almost all sectors of the market, but the cases are under control. But I would like to say that, I mean, without the active support of the people or general population, it would not have been possible. It is a long battle, and we are, I mean, waiting for the vaccination, the vaccine to come. For vaccines also, we have prepared a blueprint so that whosoever is involved in the COVID-19 pandemic situation or coming into contact with the patient or the healthcare worker, those would be given the first and followed with the other sections of the society like the frontline worker like police or the sanitary worker or any other worker whosoever is involved in the providing the food supplies to the needy person. Uh, uh, we also come across some typical issues uh, I mean the pregnant woman delivery because delivery can't be postponed. It is to be done at the in a day on the given day. Uh, we come across the more than 1,000 COVID positive pregnant women, and for such women, we have developed a facility in Nair Hospital, and you won't believe that more than 750 women delivered, positive women I'm talking about, COVID positive women delivered, and not a single fatality we have observed. So that is again a very good situation we have tackled. Some issues were there about the dialytic patient, the patient who are in need of dialysis, because suppose a normal patient is going to dialysis and the infected person is going, that was also a chances of spread of this virus. But we have created another facility for the COVID positive patient, and that is also work very well. Now you won't get a single complaint that though I'm COVID positive, I'm not getting the dialysis facility, or though I'm non-COVID, but I'm because of the fear, I'm not going to the facility for getting the dialysis done. Uh, we also have launched various programs like mission, as I said earlier, the mission Save Lives, Mission Zero, then change the virus policy. All this policy really worked very good for us, and that helped us to tackle the situation. But we are also aware that yes, we have a long way to go because unless the vaccine is in place, it is difficult for us to just sit back and relax. So we are keeping all our facilities to the to high sensitive level to fully prepared level in order to take care of the more number of patients in case the second wave comes up. Similarly, we are also advocating that yes, I mean, even if the vaccine is there, even if someone is getting vaccinated, but now our human behavioral change, we have to maintain the behavioral change like wearing mask, keeping safe distance, and using hand sanitizer for sanitizing our hand or washing our hand by using soap. So if we follow these three things, definitely that would be a good thing because now the repetition of the pandemic situation, the frequency is going up like anything because earlier we used to get after 60 years or 70 years. Now every after 10 years we are facing this situation. So in order to take care, we have to have very good habits in future. One example I would like to quote about the reduction of the hepatitis A and E cases and a reduction of the gastroenteritis cases. When I was taking review of the preparedness of the other non-COVID illnesses, I got to know that yes, I mean the hepatitis A and E cases have gone down by almost 83% as compared to the last 5 years. And the same is the case with the gastroenteritis cases. The cases gone down by 68%. And this is not possible because of the intervention of the municipal corporation. This is possible only because of the behavioral change, which I mean, we are washing hands before eating. We are stop eating the stale food or food cooked in the unhygienic condition. These two factors contributed this, and now henceforth we have to get along with these habits, and that would be helpful for us in the time to come. Even if the another wave of the COVID-19 or another pandemic situation created, so we would be better placed. And I would like to end here. I would like to take a pause and the questions and answers. I would like to welcome. Uh, any type of questions. Without anything, without getting worried about the whether I would feel bad or otherwise. So thank you very much, and thank you Rotary Club of Bombay West for inviting me and for felicitating me and for giving me this opportunity to interact with all of you. Thank you very much.
Rajendra, there are some questions in the chat box. Will you ask the questions? Unmute yourself, Rajendra.
Aslam,
yeah.
Why don't you ask the questions? It will be easier.
Okay. So, this first question which has come up is when you made household survey, do you find any positive relationship with the density of population and the positive cases?
Yeah, initially, as I said, initially the number of cases were more from the slum area, which is densely populated area. But subsequently, when we conducted sero survey, the antibody development in the slum population was up to 57% and 45% in the second survey. So yes, initially that was the case, but subsequently when we opened up, then the more number of cases were starting coming in from the buildings.
The next question is from your daughter. She says, I'm asking this question not as a daughter, but as a doctor. Question is, what is being done to preserve the mental health of frontline workers?
Yeah, this is a tough question because I am also a frontline worker, but getting involved in the treatment, because you, at the end of the day, you get more and more satisfaction. Suppose if your patient is getting cured and he's getting discharged, and after say 1 day or 2 days, you are getting a call from that patient, just because of you, I am here and I'm calling you to thank you. So that is the, more than anything, that is the biggest relaxer you can say, so that you can get relaxed. But mental health, we also have introduced the policy of 7-day work and 7-day off. That also helped us to regain the mental state of the healthcare worker as it is, plus some incentives and plus some security like insurance, as I mentioned earlier, 50 lakh cover insurance, that is again major mental relaxer. And we have provided the accommodation facility for each one of them in a very good hotel. So all these factors work in our favor, and therefore we could keep the mental health of the treating doctor in a good shape.
The next question is, since you mentioned the Mission Zero campaign, can you share a bit about it?
Yeah, because as I said, it was not the battle to fought by only MCGM. We took some of the NGOs, billing NGOs on board. They provided us some infrastructure support like mobile van and some doctors. What should I? The combined effort of the MCGM medical teams and the private medical teams, we could go house to house. We could put the positive patients out or the symptomatic patient out. We could test them and shifted them to the facility to treat them. So treating, tracking, testing, and treating. This was the mandate, and this was the basic content of the Mission Zero. So no person should be unattended. A symptomatic person or the high risk person should be unattended. The same thing we are following. We are now testing the ferry-wala or the street vendor or the bhaji-wala or the market where the footfall was more. So all these persons we are treating. That is the bottom line of the Mission Zero campaign.
There's a question. It says that why lowest positive cases in Kalba Devi and Dongri, which are very congested area with common toilets, etc.
Yeah, because three things. I mean, suppose someone is really using mask, someone is really washing his hands at regular interval and keeping social distance. So that is the main key, because otherwise there is no treatment protocol per se prescribed for avoiding this thing. And plus personal hygiene in the sense, I mean, suppose someone is really drinking some homemade turmeric extract or in a small quantity with some clove and ginger. So just keep your throat clean so that the whenever the virus is really affecting you, that won't enter into your lungs and your respiration system. That also help us to keep the patient out of this situation.
The question is, what is the rough percentage of people getting affected from other diseases after Corona?
Yeah, because I mean that lot of discussion and deliberations are going on because the lung-related issues would be more in number in the time to
Hello.
come. So we have to be more careful. We have to be careful about the health status of our lung. So we have to practice some pranayam and some exercises so that we should not get infected or by some other disease because of the treatment given to take care of the COVID-19.
मनोज को अनम्यूट करिए ना.
Just a minute.
Rajendra, can I ask a question or do I have to write it down?
Yeah, no, please ask. Please go ahead.
Mr. Kakani, this morning or yesterday we had news about Pfizer's vaccine being given emergency use in England, in the United Kingdom, and I guess USA will follow very soon. We have the Oxford vaccine, which is probably in the final stages of approval or whatever. How soon do you think we will be able to give our frontline workers and the senior citizens, if that's your priority? When do you think this can begin?
Yeah, I mean, we are expecting the first lot at the end of this month, in the month of December or the first half of January, because that is what the indications given to us. So we are also getting ready. We have prepared our blueprint. So where to store, where to how to transport, and how to vaccinate the first frontline worker or the healthcare worker. So our plan is ready, and I mean, we are expecting a first lot at the end of this month or the first half of the next month.
Shirish, please ask your question.
Okay. Essentially, when there was shortage of ICU bed, a lot of people had to go ICU bed hunting in ambulances. Why did it take BMC so long to establish a central control room and allocate ICU beds centrally?
To share my personal experience, because I mean all the patients are not requiring ICU to start with. This is, I'm sorry to say, but I mean the patient himself or the patient's relative or friend used to decide. I mean my patient is kept in ICU, which was not required. This is number one. Number two, our facility was already in place. But I mean, suppose there was a choice, I would like to go to the private hospital instead of going to the public hospital. We used to get a call from abroad as well. Don't put my parents, though I'm in the developed country, don't put my parents in the municipal facility, though the ICU beds are available or the oxygenated beds are available. So it is not that, I mean, the ICU beds were not available, but I mean, out of anxiety or out of the over excitement, the patient relatives used to decide that my patient should be in ICU, he should not be in the normal isolation ward. And therefore, the demand of ICU was more. This is number one. Number two, the major intervention, because anyone who is really affected or infected by this virus require the oxygen supply. And we augmented our oxygen supply to any level. Even otherwise also, whenever our cases were more than 2,800 per day, our ICU occupancy was less than 1,000 or around 1,200, though we have a capacity of 1,000 to 2,000, more than 2,000. So it should have been left at the discretion of the treating doctor whether the particular patient really requires the ICU or a normal bed will also do for him. But it was not happening. So initially there was a tremendous struggle, because we used to struggle a lot to convince people that yes, you are not requiring ICU. But I mean, you can't really convince people beyond a limit. Made the situation a bit tricky during the initial phases, but now I mean everything is stabilized, and all are getting very good treatment. That is what we are getting the feedback of.
Thank you so
Gautam,
much.
you may ask your
I just
question.
wanted to compliment you on one point. One of our ex-Rotarians was COVID positive, and he got himself admitted into BKC unit, and he was all praised for the facilities, the equipment, the dedication of doctors and all staff, also the food. So compliments to BMC.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you.
Gautam, you can unmute yourself and ask a question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can
My
I
query,
ask-
roughly, how many, as a percentage of the population, how many people, both symptomatic and asymptomatic, have been estimated to get COVID already? Because this I'm asking in the reference of, if enough people have gotten it, how concerned should we be about a second wave, basically?
So roughly, if you ask me, because we conducted 2 sero surveys in the city, and those were in the slum and the building population as well. In the slum area, we got very good results of 57% in the first round and 45% in the second round. The person developed the antibodies. Development antibodies, that means, the COVID won't infect that person and he would be safe. But on the contrary, in the building, only 16 to 18% of people got, developed antibodies. So we have to be very careful. We can't really say that whether the second wave would come or how many persons would be infected. If I can't afford to get relaxed and not wearing mask and moving in the field. Whenever I go to the field, I have to wear mask, though facilities are available or the system is in place. But our behavior change really work for us until the vaccine is come. Even if the vaccine is there, even then also we have to follow these norms during our lifetime. So you can't expect the second wave. Number one, anyone would be infected if proper care has not been taken. Number two.
Mr. Kakani, I have just one other question to ask you, and that is something which I've been hearing, and it's going contrary to whatever I see and read in the papers. The figures, the cases are coming down, or at least they're static around what I read, about 400, 500 in the city of Mumbai. And yet there are rumors that we might have some lockdown somewhere. Can you discount that completely?
Yes, because if you ask me, I was the first person to bat for the unlocking of the city because my non-medical opinion is if we unlock the city, the people will mix with each other. They may be exposed to certain level to a viral, and they may get acclimatized, or they may develop the antibodies within, because human system is such a fantastic. We can adjust with any type of foreign body so easily. So unlocking is on, and I don't see any locking in near future unless cases are really going up meets and bound, in the sense if we are getting 5,000 cases or 10,000 cases a day, which we are getting less than 1,000. So till that time, I don't think a locking would be there.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah, Usha, go ahead. Ask a
Good
question.
evening, sir. Thank you for being with us this evening. I have a question regarding the schooling system, sir. Is it going to be continuing to be online till the end of academic year 2021? Children are so frustrated at home, and of course we understand the scenario, but I'm very keen to know what is the take of the government on schooling for children this year.
Yeah, we had decided that school should reopen post Deepavali, but because of the second wave in other part of India, so we delayed that decision and we extended that decision till 31st of December. Hopefully, January, if the cases are not going up, definitely January you can imagine or you can visualize that yes, schools have started functioning.
But sir, are you going to be giving parents the option of not sending as well and not make? Both options will be open.
Yeah, of course. The call is to be taken by parents. Otherwise, we have to battle on two different fronts to convince the parents and convince the students as well.
Yes,
so
sir.
We are leaving that option open and to be decided by the parent.
So it'd be wonderful if we could have both the options, school and online, and we can decide which way we want to go with it.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Hi.
President
I have
Manoj-
one question.
Sorry.
I have one question. The guidelines issued by the municipal corporation and government for medical professionals, every day they go on changing. Problem is there are so many guidelines even interfering with the treatment by our medical professionals. Now, every day, unless I read a guideline and if I do a treatment, if it is not fitting in that day's guideline, it might be a problem. So I don't know whether it is right or wrong.
Basically, to share with you, because the municipal corporation has not issued a single guideline for the doctors, because I mean, we thought, I mean, it should be a prerogative of the call to be taken by the treating doctor. Some of the guidelines were issued by government or the government of India, but
Yes.
subsequently those were amended and we were not a party to those guidelines, frankly speaking. But yes, I mean, because of the other than Mumbai, forget about Mumbai, because Mumbai, we have planned our resources, we marshaled our resources very well. So we didn't get any shortage of oxygen or any shortage of the remdesivir, which is the essential drug, essential drug. I'm not sure. But I mean, in the other part of the state or India, there was tremendous shortage of oxygen supply. So some guidelines were issued by government saying that the oxygen supply should be restricted and there should not be holding per se of the oxygen, or no one should take benefit of short supply and start minting money. So keeping that thing in mind, the government might have issued those guidelines, but MCGM per se, we are not issued any guidelines so far the treatment is concerned. Whatever
So
guidelines
that
issued,
is regarding oxygen, the guidelines were 5 liters per hour, and there were certain ICU patients requiring much more than that.
yeah, that's right. I mean, I understand because
To decide.
yeah, those guidelines were not issued by MCGM. Those guidelines were, because we were not party to those guidelines, and since we augmented our supply, so we didn't, worried about or got worried about the oxygen supply, because I mean, we created our facility, a turbo facility, shifted from the oxygen supply to the turbo, and having capacity of 13,000 liters per capacity. So at the cost of repetition, I'm saying we were not party to that decision, and those were issued by the government for the rest of Maharashtra other than Mumbai.
That is right. I think we are differentiating MCGM, government of Maharashtra, government of India, but guidelines can confuse many people. One. Second thing, in Rotary, we have oxygen accumulator. We supply oxygen accumulator to public. Same way, I am associated with a trust where we have more than 500 oxygen cylinders. We supply 24 hours oxygen cylinders. But problem is the guidelines confuse so many people that this has happened. I mean, of course, what you say is right. MCGM is not done. Maharashtra government is not done. But Indian government has done whoever is done. But then guidelines, unless you follow all the guidelines, we are at fault. That's a problem.
No, because I mean, if you ask about the statistics of the number of patients which are being handled by MCGM, 80% patient, be it as critical patients or serious patients or a normal patient, 80% patient load has been taken over by MCGM facilities or the public facilities.
Right.
Only 20% patients were admitted in the private facilities. And there also, so far as the Mumbai, because since I'm in charge of Mumbai, so there also we have mandated them, they can use, if they do not have oxygen supply or the inadequate oxygen supply, they can ship the patient to any of the facility which is nearby. Take a case of, say, one facility which was affected because of some mishap or some fire incidents or something like that. Immediately we shifted all the patients in the next facility, which is a jumbo facility, specially created for admitting COVID-19 patients. These facilities are equipped with the adequate oxygen supply. So yes, I mean, some confusion might be there, but so far as the Mumbai is concerned, so far as the municipal hospitals are concerned, I mean, we didn't. We didn't intervene in the treatment protocol which is being followed by the treating doctors.
Fine, thank you.
Suresh
My only suggestion is that guidelines for the treating doctors should be limited because otherwise they're really confusing. Every day we are doing that. That's it. I mean, okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
Yeah, okay.
Suresh, there are lots and lots of questions. Shall we continue or you want to?
Yeah, I mean, continue. I'm open to you because I mean, this is just beginning of my day because I retire at 1 a.m. every day. So that is not a problem. Yeah.
WHO released a statement last week that it does not recommend remdesivir for COVID-19 any longer. In the wake of this, will MCGM continue to sanction this drug free of cost?
Yes, because I mean, we have set up a task force which is again headed by the only senior doctors or the specialist doctors. So we are going ahead with the advice given by the doctors who are practicing in Mumbai and who are learned in their respective field. So as of now, we are going ahead with the remdesivir and the patients are getting very good results.
That is right.
Okay, when are the trains expected to start for everyone? Local trains.
15 December, that is what we have earmarked that 15 December we'll take a call on that because I mean, there was, tremendous marketing about the second wave. So we also start getting worried. There's just, I mean, if the second wave is there and it coincides with the opening of local trains, then that may be another cause of concern. It would be a difficult position for us to handle. So we postponed the decision to 15th of December. And before that, detailed review will be taken and consultation workshop would be organized and then a necessary call will be taken.
The next question is, what is the situation of herd immunity now? And whether people are prone to getting COVID second time? This is questioned by Rajendra son, Vedant.
Yeah, so I mean, very few chances are there the patients are getting infected again, because we come across 3 to 4 cases and the results are not supportive. There may be some other reason, either the first result may be false positive and the second one would be false negative or positive. But I mean, the chances of getting infected again are very, very less as of now in the given scenario. But yes, I mean, we should be more careful about the overall behavior, whatever we have achieved or transform our behavior. So if we stick to that, so you should not worry about the getting infected for the first time or the second time.
Mr. Kakani, ask a question now.
Can I just come in, Aslam? Aslam, can I come in for a moment?
Yes,
Mr. Kakani,
sure.
I have to leave now because I have another international meeting. But it's been a real pleasure to meet you, and I will take Rajendra's offer of taking him with me and to meet you.
No,
we
sir,
will fix up an appointment and come and see you later. Thank you very much for this wonderful talk. It's been great. I wish I could have stayed longer, but that meeting is also going to start soon. So my apologies.
Thank you, Gulamji. Thank you so much for being here, Gulamji.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. I will walk down to your place and I will have a pleasure of having tea with you, sir.
I would look forward to that, but let me first come to you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, Pinakin Bhai, please ask your question.
Yeah, sir, first of all, I want to congratulate MCGM for having done such a tremendous work. But I can ask you one question. The hospital bills which were coming initially and now also are way beyond the control charges. Why that happens?
Can you repeat your question, please?
Yeah, so the hospital bills of the COVID patient are, though I don't have anybody in my family, but the bill are way above the control charges declared by government of Maharashtra. They are declared some 4,000 rupees per day if the patient was not in ICU, but the bills are very, very high.
Yeah, so I mean, for that, I mean, we set up a system of, we appointed 5 IS officers, and these officers are supported by the 76 auditor employed by MCGM to scrutinize each and every bill and to ask the hospital to reduce the bill amount or to refund the bill amount if excess collected. So that is also playing well. But in MCGM hospitals, so I would like to say that we should have more faith in the public hospitals, because the MCGM hospital, as rightly said by one of the participants, that yes, his friend got very good treatment, the food was good, the treatment was good, the behavior of the doctor was good. So we should have more faith in the public system. So therefore, so we get more energy to perform better if we get a good feedback, just like you. So for the private hospital concern, yes, I mean the overcharging complaints are very large in number. Now, I mean, since the system is matured, the number of complaints have gone down substantially, and everyone, most of them, I won't say everyone, but most of them are following the norm set up by government of Maharashtra.
Can I just comment? About hospital bills. When you say private hospitals are overcharging, many of the private hospitals had to lay down the staff. They can't pay the doctors, including me. They can't pay the doctors. So when we say they are overcharging, I don't know how it works, because if they can't pay their staff has been laid down, certain wards had to be closed down. So I don't know whether this restriction of the charges paid on a commercial basis. I don't know that.
No, basically, I mean, if you ask me, the most of hospitals are charitable hospitals. I mean, only the day-to-day expenditures, I mean, they are non-profit organization per se. So yes, if someone is really looking for recovering or charging more, it is of no use. That amount would go in the common kitty. It won't go to the personal kitty. So whatever amount fixed up by government, though we are making losses, suppose, I mean, right now we are providing treatment free of cost, and we are incurring the huge expenditure, but we are not shying away from spending money for treatment of the patient. So this is the opportunity given to us, including the private sector hospitals, that yes, we should treat them without really getting worried about the profit or getting worried about the day-to-day expenditure, because most of them are the charitable organizations.
The last two questions.
No, but at the cost of paying the doctors and the staff. That is the problem, because I have faced it. I know it. So many wards have closed down. So many staffs have left the hospitals.
Now, if you ask me, off the record, if you ask me, there is a huge competition that allow our hospital to admit COVID positive patients. Because yes, when we started, we enrolled 73 private hospitals. Then when we, I mean, get numerous complaints, we shut down all the 73 hospitals and I mean, ask them not to admit the COVID positive patient because we have enough capacity. But subsequently, again, we allowed only 27. That there was a tremendous pressure from the private hospital that allow us to admit a COVID positive patient. Suppose someone is really incurring losses, sorry to say, but someone is really, why should he pressurize us for allowing him to admit COVID positive patient? That is, again, unanswered thing for us. But while saying so, we are not, I mean, we are not undermining the efforts of the private sector hospitals or the private sector general practitioners. Because of the active support, active help, we could come out or we could control the COVID-19 pandemic situation in Mumbai.
That is fine, absolutely fine. I know, because I have not been paid for 4 or 5 months in the private hospital. I mean, I'm saying many of the staff, I'm just saying that. Sorry.
Oh, no issue, no issue.
So Suresh, last two questions. One is, will the vaccine be free for the health workers?
No.
Yes. The vaccine would be free for the health workers. I mean, we are not charging, because I mean, if you ask me the total outgo, we have spent more than 1,200 crore for the treatment of the citizens. Then by recovering 200, 300 or 400 rupees from a poor healthcare worker, that is not going to serve any purpose. For the healthcare worker, it would be free of cost.
Thank you.
The last question is, have you benchmarked the overall performance of Mumbai city against other major cities around the world? How does it compare Mumbai to other cities?
Because I mean that rating should be given by you or the organizations working for the betterment of the society or betterment of the people. Because I won't rate ourselves But yes, I do admit that there is a scope for improvement, and definitely we'll strive for that.
Thank you so much, Sureshji. President,
Thank you.
over to you.
Thank you, Sureshji. Only last what Aslam asked, MCGM, the death rate of Mumbai city is possibly higher than national death rate and the international death rate. Just a comment. I'm thankful to Suresh bhai. It was an excellent talk. It was an excellent interactive meeting. And I think we should get together and we should interact with each other for all these things. And we, all of us together, have to solve these problems. Now, we were talking in our meeting that in maybe 2006 or 16 Spanish flu, maybe their mortality was in crores. It lasted for more than 2 years. Hopefully, this should not, because we have modern times, we have modern medicines, we have modern treatment. So hopefully, we should be able to get rid of corona. Yes, but we have to be prepared to live with corona as we are living with dengue, as we are living with swine flu, as we are living with TB and malaria. So I think we should be prepared, and all of us should follow the guidelines or the safety measures for all diseases, not only corona. So that should keep our health good. And if our health is good, the chances of getting the disease will be better. Thank you.
Yeah, vote of thanks.
I would request past President Shirish Rege to propose a vote of thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Manoj. As a TRF alumnus myself, it gives me great pleasure to propose a vote of thanks to fellow TRF alumnus and Rotary Peace Scholar, Additional Municipal Commissioner Suresh Kakani. Friends, as you all know, we have many distinguished Rotary Peace Scholars in Maharashtra who have distinguished themselves as in public service as bureaucrats and police officers. Amongst them, as Ghulam mentioned, are Praveen Dixit, ex-DGP of Maharashtra, Sumit Malik, ex-Cabinet Secretary, erstwhile Additional Municipal Commissioner Rajiv Jalota, O.P. Gupta, who was also involved with BMC as General Manager of BST and now Secretary Higher Education. So we are all proud of you, sir, for the great public service you are doing. Your talk was, of course, excellent and has clarified a lot of doubts and apprehensions which people have, and have made us aware of the phenomenal efforts in planning and execution which BMC through you and other committed officers have put in containing COVID for betterment of Mumbai. Thank you so much. It was a great talk. Although Ghulam has signed off, thanks are due to the Rotary Foundation trustee Ghulam for joining in personally to hear Mr. Suresh Kakani give his talk. Also, thanks are due to Dr. Gargi Kakani for joining, not as your daughter, sir, but as
COVID warrior,
a doctor, and perhaps get her doubts clarified between doctor and the BMC rather than between a daughter and papa. Of course, thanks other co-presidents of Dr. Manoj, Danish Damija and Kailash Sridhar for joining, as also many other Rotarians of our club and outside other clubs and guests who have, of course, enriched their knowledge of the great fight of the century, which is going on currently to fight COVID. Thank you all for a great talk. Thank you.
Thank you, Shirish. Now I would request our secretary, Hima, for secretary's announcement.
Manoj, will you announce the birthday greetings? We missed that.
Greetings.
Skip it now.
Okay.
I think next time we can do it.
Okay. Good evening, friends. And tomorrow on 3rd December at 4 p.m. we have installation of our Interact clubs, 3 Interact clubs of Poda School, English medium, Marathi medium and Hindi medium. The Zoom invite will be shared to you soon. Please join in large numbers. On 9th December, we have Colonel Ajay Dabolkar on his journey with Indian foods. On 16th December, we have our annual meeting. On 23rd December, we have again another peace scholar, Rukmini Iyer, who will share her experience. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Hima. Thank you, Suresh. I think it was an excellent meeting and it was a good interactive meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
I adjourn the meeting.
Yeah, people can unmute themselves and speak.
It was a very informative and knowledgeable session with Dr. Suresh, with Mr. Suresh Kakani. Thank you so much, and it's a pleasure and privilege to be a co-host with you, Dr. Manoj Patel, our co-president.
Thank you, Danish. Thank you, Kala. Thank you all.
It was a very, very knowledgeable experience and shared by our additional commissioner, sir. I'm Aspit Tiwari from Mumbai, Green City. So, it's a fantastic talk, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
I'm proud of MCGM, sir. I'm Apurva Nanavati, very proud of MCGM. They're doing a wonderful job. And congratulations to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Actually, we are also proud of Rajendra ji, who is Rajendra sir, who is doing his job continuously on finding out these peace fellows, and this is something commendable, sir.
We have over here Mr. Aziz Fidai. He is going to Bangkok in June of next year.
Hi, how are you? Thanks.
Congratulations to Mr. Aziz, because it is really a learning experience and you would enjoy to the fullest. You get a lot of time for exploring yourself and to institutionalize your experience by using some technique. So it is really a game changer. It would be a game changer for you.
Yes, yes.
No, Sureshji, the format of Bangkok has changed. You go there only 8 weeks. 10 weeks. Then you come back here and for 9 months you have to do social change initiative.
Okay.
And then go back. So it's like a more hands-on experience.
Yeah. It is also a good thing because I mean, I was really benefited because of the 2 years at a stretch, because I was in 2-year program at Berkeley. And Berkeley is such a fantastic place that I got the book on practically every subject, including the caste system in India.
Yeah.
So that is really surprising, and I could read a lot. Therefore, I could write about India, Pakistan, or human rights, or bomb blast, or terrorism in Asian countries. Anyway, it is a good experience, and so all the best to Rotary Foundation, and whenever you require any support or any support, just give me a call, and then I would be available to call again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is all the best to you.
Thank you. Suresh sir, may I request you to say something about your experience about getting this peace scholarship and how you gained it, you made yourself better than this program, through this program?
Yeah, because I mean, I was involved when because I was not very keen to go for the long-term program, frankly speaking. But one of my senior colleagues said that no, you have got enough experience working in the government, and go and explore yourself and gain more energy and again start working in the same sector. So I applied it, and it is a long-term process because the Rotary Foundation requires tremendous documentation, then interview at 1 level, 2 level, and 3 level. But I mean, it was a learning experience for me to narrate whatever we have done in the field, to narrate the things, and to write a SOP, because in the meantime, as per the mandate given to us or as per the requirement, I also had to appear for the GRE and TOEFL for both the, and thankfully I could clear both of them. Otherwise, the Rotary would have offered fellowship, but I could not have secured the admission in the English Caliber of Berkeley, which is again an institute in the social sciences. And I mean, for a tremendous, because I was thankful about the this program and thankful to the Rotary Foundation. Though it was a tedious process for me, because I mean taking a time out to appear for the GRE and TOEFL, because after putting in say 5 years or 10 years in service, it is really challenging for you to take up some time for appearing for the exam, entrance exam. But somehow, I mean, I took out time and cleared both the exams and got into the. That was my first choice, getting into the Berkeley, because Berkeley, I read a lot about Berkeley, and really I'm fortunate enough to get into there and could gain something out of it. And now, I mean, I'm not supposed to say it, but whatever I am delivering now, major contribution is to the Rotary Peace Foundation, and the
Wow.
California Berkeley.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. They're amazing. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, then thank you very much.
Once again, thank you once again.
Yeah.
Surajji, thank you once again.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Rajendra ji.
Wish you all